Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. Okay, so remember that they are changing my voice. And believe it or not, I'm the most qualified person to talk about this. The most. That's a story for another day. I want to stick to the topic at hand. This video is about why society should house homeless people and have rehabs for hard drug addicts. Okay? And, alcoholics who really need it first and foremost. And rehabs in general. Now, if someone was a Christian, they might quote scripture, what have you, and that can be helpful. But it's better to just get directly to the point. For example, point number 1. Society's collective failure has led to the rise of homelessness. Society's collective failure. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. Okay? The government determines what homeschool materials are available, what school materials are available. The government determines so many things in your life. And society, the taxpayers, what have you, they vote on various things quite often. And they vote on representatives. So society's collective failure, no matter how you slice it, has led to the rise of homelessness. Now, should they take responsibility? Yes, I could leave it right there, but let's get to point number 2. The school system is not structured in a way that allows people to learn the value of morality and to learn in the ways that they may learn, right? People learn differently. Some people learn better from movies. I think almost everyone does, right? People watch TV so much, but some people learn better from oral presentations, written presentations. People learn better if there's an attractive female teaching. Some people learn better if it's an ugly female teaching, if it's a guy teaching. Some people are gay and learn better if it's a gay person teaching. So people haven't considered these things, and they factor in far, far more than you think. And how boring the class is, right? The board of education, bored. That factors in far, far more than you might think. And keep in mind, I've studied this for years. As the son of 2 doctors, one a brain surgeon, I'm the most qualified and fair person when it comes to talking about this. Now, when it comes to some of the details, some of the information I don't have, that people who are teachers, that stuff's useful. But I have the moral high ground. And I'm very analytical. Okay, so again, the school system is not structured in a way that allows people to learn the value of morality. Morals are important. Morality, believe it or not, is a play on words for moral reality. To live in reality, you have to be moral. If someone goes around just abusing people, they're in like a fugitive state. A fugue state is what it's called. They're not thinking clearly. If there's some kind of narcissist or sociopath or psychopath, they're not thinking. You can't just go around and harm people. Why? Because it's wrong. And what makes it wrong? There's so much evidence, right, in nature that makes it clear what's wrong. I can't think of any animal that expresses emotions to any logical degree or greater that doesn't make clear that it has some kind of sense of justice. It is not something human beings made up. Every life form seems to have some sense of right and wrong. Every life form that, like a deer or a rabbit, what have you. But in a sense, the plants too, and that's a story for another day. I do not want to make it too complex here. If you don't learn morality, you don't move masterfully. This is a case of when the word starts with the letter M, and it's actually connected. Morals and master. You cannot master life if you're not actually moral in reality. You won't have strong relationships with your friends and family, and that will contribute. That will be a contributing factor to you going homeless if you go homeless. Okay, so then I used an example. I said, for example, not everyone is naturally gifted at singing or drawing. Okay, so the school system is not structured correctly, and you're not naturally gifted in a certain way that allows you to learn in those parameters. In the formula, within the formula that's being used. Form, formation, and formula. Then you're less likely to be successful. And when you're unsuccessful, what mechanisms does society have in place to help you out? It's laughable. Look at Chicago. Look at New York City. people turn to crime in droves, and the government hardly does anything about it. They might say, well, don't do drugs. They're bad for you. Hey, stay away from gangs, son. That's not going to stop it. And it hasn't stopped it. So when people aren't naturally gifted at something, and you're the government, and you see lots of people not naturally gifted at these things, your job is to figure out what they're gifted at and to structure your society in a way that is fair and just and right, that allows them to find their way so they can make a living wage. When you fail to do that, you have failed your citizens. Again, when you have failed to do that, you have failed your citizens. You didn't have the vision. The word city is like the word sight, and the word sight, C-I-T-E, is like S-I-G-H-T. You didn't have the vision, the moral sight, the spiritual sight, the mental and romantic sight to do things correctly. And as a result, it's a dog-eat-dog society, a trickle-down blood money, crony capitalist society. And who would think that's fair? Who would think that's acceptable? That is dishonorable, that is ignoble, and unacceptable. Point number 3. Society failed to win the war on drugs. What gives the government, with all its resources, fighting wars all over the world, the right to lose the war on drugs? When you lost the war on drugs, you lost what semblance of a chance you had to ever have the moral high ground. You lost it. You failed to win the war on drugs with the most military spending on the planet, with countless law enforcement agencies and countless informants and various social clubs and your family members helping you out. You failed to win the war on drugs when you could have easily won it. And then they turn around and have the nerve to say, why should we house the homeless? That is sick. That is so sick. And look at Big Pharma. They did a study where it was like 1 in 4 foster kids is on psych meds. Pumping them full of psych meds the first chance they get. They said, well, it's easier to drug them up till they're kind of docile and malleable and easily, told what to do and easy to sexually abuse than it is to, actually solve the problems in society. And it's not just one foster home, it's all of them. It's not just, a few psychiatrists, it's the whole mental health apparatus. It's the government, it's the social clubs, it's the political groups, it's the communities. Society's collective failure has led to the rise of homelessness. Point number 4. Again, I say this in the most respectable way that a righteous person who is feeling righteous indignation could possibly say it and possibly mean it. The sheer arrogance of white society has caused there to be homeless people when, if I was in charge, I would not enforce racial supremacy and immorality, and there would be no homelessness. Sheer arrogance, sheer sadism, sheer indifference, cruelty, cruel. If I was in charge, I would not enforce racial supremacy. I'm even biracial. And I would not enforce immorality, and that's what they're doing. And there will be no homelessness. Let me give you an example here. For those of you who say, I don't believe him. Okay. Well, let's kick the ballistics here. Donald Trump, in just 4 years of presidency, added over $8 trillion to the debt. A lot of that was weapons, bombs and so on in Afghanistan and stupid tax cuts for the rich and just dumb ideas. Okay. That's over $2 trillion a year. A year. For just $10 billion a year since 2014. Just $10 billion. Since 2014. We could have built 1 million units more for $100,000 per unit, which, by the way, is more than it should cost. Nationwide. For just $10 billion a year. Compare that to $2 trillion a year. So if I was in charge, nobody would be homeless. There'll be farming programs to feed the kids. If you think that's not the case, you're crazy. If I was in charge, I'd also be married by now. It's a story for another day. And I'd approach a woman and say, hey, I ended homelessness. I ended child hunger. I'm a man of God. And I would like to have a chance at your heart. After dating for a while, I'd say the same thing in a better way, more poetic, in a way that my actions say it, perhaps instead of words. And I'd say, will you be my wife? That's part of the romantic prerogative I have, moral, mental, spiritual, romantic. I would not allow for the disgrace of having homeless people on my watch, nor the disgrace of having children who are hungry, who don't have the things that they need. No way. For a relatively small amount of money, compared to how much the money the government just squanders, I would have solved these problems. So do we owe it to these homeless people who also were taxpayers? Almost every, one way, no matter how you slice the sales tax for nothing else. Okay, they contributed to this system that let them down. They paid for the right to be housed, which is a human right to begin with, because how hard is it for a community to build a house for some homeless person who can't find their way in their culture, when part of a culture's responsibility is to help them find their way? And we'll end that here for now. There's other interesting things I want to say. I want to pass certain vice taxes, wealth taxes to build rehabs. But to make a long story short, I've more than proven my point in this part one. Thank you.